in the 60s, through the military rule, and then to the civilian dispensation. Under the civilian dispensation, we've also been faced with challenges. Our duty as young Nigerians is to see how we can move this country forward, is to see how we can partner with the government with a vision in sight, to know that yes, in America, whose citizens also once moved around naked with nothing but leaves and skin clothes along their loins, whose citizens once used bush lamps and fires. If the United Arab Emirates, from their challenges, could rise up to have skyscrapers, towers all over, then we can develop Nigeria across the shores of the Niger Delta to have things like what we have in Dubai in Bayelsa, to have things like what we have in Singapore in Enugu State, to have industrial hubs like what we have in China, in Aba, and so many other places, to see how the productivity in our northern states can also come up again. We want to see again in this country not only groundnut pyramids, but also a value addition to all of what we produce locally. Great Nigerian youths. Great. Today, we have come to make our resolutions, and we have also come to call on the government to say the Nigerian youth are ready for productivity. The government should engage actively with the Nigerian youth. We want to identify the opportunities that are present before us. We know that, yes, there are challenges, but we are standing with a strong resolve today that we will surmount the challenges that face us as a country. All we need from the government is a firm partnership. We want to use the occasion of this International Youth Day to call on His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to, as a matter of urgency, have an engagement with the Nigerian youth from across the 774 local governments, an engagement that will translate to strong resolutions and actions that will ensure that industrialization is triggered on a rapid note. We are faced with challenges. We talked about exploring the vistas of using CNG, compressed natural gas, to power our vehicles and have innovative means of power generation. We've also looked at having renewable energy. Of course, that focuses very well and pans in very well and neatly so with the green skills for youth. We are trying to see how we can have a deeper penetration of solar-powered devices across the rural communities. If there is proper infrastructure in rural communities today, I will say clearly that most of the youth will have no businesses in the city centers, but will go back again to the rural communities where we have more land for agriculture, where we have more land to also refine these our agricultural products along value addition chains that will ensure that we'll move up again. We will also note that new industries can come up where we can begin to manufacture phones. We can manufacture what we consume. Great Nigerian youths, it is time for us as a nation. If the dollar rate must come down, if the hardships must be reduced, if the sufferings must end, then Nigeria must begin to produce. The essence of our gathering here is for us to challenge ourselves, first of all, and is also for the government to wake up to the cries and the yearnings of the youth, that we have got potentials, and these potentials should be marshaled, put together, and turned to productivity. Finally, before I end my speech, we want to call on the President of the Senate, His Excellency Senator Dr. Godfrey Akpabio. He has demonstrated very clearly that yes, he has a heart for the masses, and he also wants to ensure that the legislature is very transparent. We saw what happened a few days ago. It is nothing but a display of transparency that we have gone beyond the time where things are hidden from the public. If your senator is getting this, let the public know that this is what is being gotten. That is a welcome development. However, we know that there are 109 senatorial districts in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We want to ensure that our programs are targeted at these 109 senatorial districts. We therefore call on the President of the Senate and Chairman of the National Assembly that the youth would want to partner with the National Assembly to ensure that all the projects that are being executed across the Federal Republic of Nigeria are targeted at meeting the felt needs of the poorest of the poor. We want to ensure that these projects are not just executed for the upfix, but are executed to drive towards productivity and to move the country from where she is to where she is supposed to be. Again, we would want to remind the government that there is a need for a better and a thorough synergy between the executive and the legislature to ensure that anything that affects the youth is quickly, swiftly, and seamlessly addressed. One issue of concern to us has been the Youth Investment Fund. The 75 billion naira Youth Investment Fund was launched by the President Muhammadu Buhari government in the year 2020. It was expected to churn out 25 billion every year, targeted at young Nigerians who will invest these funds in productive enterprises. It was supposed to run in 2020, 21, 22, and then end in 2023. Has any of us here in this hall benefited from the National Youth Investment, Nigerian Youth Investment Funds? No. Has anybody benefited? Please, if you have, raise your hands. It tells us clearly that there is a disconnect between most of the policies, programs, and projects of government and the felt needs of the youth and what needs to be done. Therefore, we want to call on the President and the head of this present government, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to ensure that the Nigerian Youth Investment Funds is thoroughly probed. We want to know where our 75 billion naira went to. We want to know who got this money. We want to know if these monies were just given to people who wanted to marry more wives, build houses for themselves, or buy cars. That is now responsible for the sorry state we have found ourselves. We want to know if these funds were truly channeled towards productive ventures. And why have we not seen made in Nigeria mobile phones, made in Nigeria computers, made in Nigeria air conditions? And if we look around this hall, most of what we have in this hall is brought in from China, from Singapore, from Malaysia, from Germany, from the United States, from everywhere. Our country has become a dumping ground for imported goods, and we export very little aside raw materials. It is a challenge to this government, and this government must ensure that early enough there is a birthed partnership with the youth of this country to ensure that our idle hands are converted to working hands, and to ensure that our potentials are moved to productivity, to ensure that what we consume in this country is produced in this country. We are tired of giving us palliatives and giving us pittance funds we do not want. We can endure any pain once we are sure that at the end of these pains, it will give us results, it will give us progress, it will give us advancement. In concluding, we want to restate that the youth of Nigeria have firm confidence in this government, led by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We have very firm confidence that he is abreast of the challenges that face this country and dexterously also competent to address same. We have firm confidence in the Senate and the House of Representatives, the National Assembly as a whole, that they will not constitute a stumbling block just in a bid to say they are not a rubber stamp, but that there will be a firm partnership between the National Assembly and the executive to ensure that everything that is meant for the youth gets to the youth. Build the youth! Build the youth! I welcome you once again to this grand event. I thank every one of you for creating time to come here. I trust that Mr. President will treat our message very seriously. In this event that has been convened by the Rising Up for the United Nigeria and Empowerment for Unemployed Youth Initiative, having here with us leaders of various youth organizations from across the country, leaders of various civil society organizations from across the country, including the National Youth Council of Nigeria, groups and cultural groups and religious groups, faith-based organizations, all gathered here. Our resolutions will be passed on to the President. Our resolutions will be passed on to the Senate. I want to assure all of us that we must not buckle up under this pressure, but we must rise in partnership with the government to ensure that the Nigeria of our dreams is built. Great ideas are built not because the opportunities are glaring, but because we search and press and ensure that they are gotten. Finally, I have a message from the Controller General of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and I'm sure that his representative will be here to also corroborate this same message. He has told me to assure this gathering of youth leaders that you can go back to your productive ventures, to your farms, to your businesses, to your industries, and to your enterprises across the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. That every issue of insecurity will be promptly and properly addressed so that productivity can thrive in our countryside and rural areas. Please, around